Good afternoon. My name is Bob, and I'm addicted to oil. I suspect a few other people share that same affliction with me. If you paid attention to President Bush's State of the Union address a few weeks ago, he did mention a solution called the plug-in hybrid, which I'm going to share a few thoughts with you this afternoon and explain a little bit. But first, I run into some other alternative solutions that are probably easier, and the one that I liked the best was an email I got a couple of weeks ago, which said, send an email to 100 of your friends, boycott Exxon gas stations, and the price of gasoline will come down to $1.39 a gallon. I tried it. Maybe I didn't do it right, because so far it doesn't seem to be working. I get frustrated when I see politicians proposing to get up a posse to go harass additional oil company executives about this problem. I'd rather see them chasing Osama bin Laden, quite frankly. Another interesting thing I saw on the internet was a movie by Honda announcing that they have a prototype fuel cell vehicle that'll cost as much as 20 Corvettes. So that's $1 million. But the newsman said with a little bit of development, they're going to get the price down to $500,000. So I sent a letter to Honda and said, when you get there, I want a white one. The long-term perspective is that we've got some answers to the energy crisis. The 50-year answers are things like nuclear or nuclear, whichever you prefer pronunciation. I guess nuclear is more politically correct. But solar and wind and fuel cells and the like. But this conference is about the next 5 years. And if we don't do something over the next 5 years, we're not going to get to the next 50. So some of the things that need to get done is to enable things that are already pretty well started. There's an awful lot going on now with respect to battery technology, with respect to fuel cells, with respect to control systems that will help us move down that particular direction. One of the fears that people investing in alternative energy is that when the oil exporting countries see a competitor coming along, they'll simply open the valves and wipe them out. So one of the things I would like to see is some sort of a support or insurance program against that happening. My action list, as an engineer, you probably think I'll have something technical at the top. In fact, top of my action list is public education. And we've heard that theme several times here today. We heard Mr. Thompson talk about the Smokey the Bear kind of a thing. We need to do the same thing with respect to alternate energy. People need to understand that 10% return on investment in the oil business is not obscene, unless, of course, you're a venture capitalist. The solutions are already underway. We had a mayor's conference in Chicago last week. 40 mayors from around the country came and saw what's going on with respect to battery and fuel cell and alternate energy automobiles. They get it. They're dealing with energy budgets, and they understand. The other issue that I guess our population needs to understand is that if you think $3 a gallon gasoline is expensive, go to India where it's 5, or Denmark where it's 8, or the rest of Europe where it's 7 or 6. So from the standpoint of solutions being there, I'm optimistic. From the standpoint of people understanding what this is about, I'm pessimistic. I'm guardedly optimistic that our local and political leaders and national political leaders are starting to understand. But the thought I'd like to leave you with is the Stone Age didn't end because we ran out of stones. I don't think the oil age will end because we ran out of oil. I think, however, there are some better answers, and folks interested in this space I'd be happy to talk to later on at the meeting. Thank you.
Hi, I'd just like to thank Mark for such a great event. A philosopher once said that if he had a big enough lever, he could move the whole world. And I think Mark is doing that with SNS. It's a heck of a lever. I have offices in Utah and Tokyo. The name of my company is Auction Video. We started out as a tight vertical company working with eBay, doing audio video with them, but about 80% of the work we do is under the radar. We do audio video work for a lot of companies doing OEM work, and in particular, I've spent a lot of time in Osaka recently with Sanyo Corporation, doing some really neat things on cell phones that I'll touch base on in just a minute. However, there are 3 key things that I see over the next 5 years as an upcoming trend. Number one is what I call the imperative of home-based health care in the U.S. In Japan, I'm part of a company, I'm a director actually of a company called the CareFit Foundation that we're actually moving here in the US to shadow the home health care industry in Japan. You know, in Japan, they really know how to take care of their elderly population. In America, sadly, we tend to just put them away and visit them occasionally. What I see happening in the future, in the very near future, is a melding of the financial benefit of improving the health care of elderly relatives, but also doing it in a home-based organization. The second thing I think is going to be an upcoming trend is what I call localized outsourcing. What I mean by this is the Fortune 500 companies, some of which are represented here today, have really tapped into the India market. What I'm actually helping with right now, and I'm leaving on Thursday for New Delhi, is taking this to the next level, but not up here, down here. Localized outsourcing will be attacking the small business market, dental offices, et cetera. We have a network of about 10,000 dental offices that we're going to be opening with in the US and helping them with their outsourcing. Now, as Steve Jobs was so famous for saying, just one more thing. As I mentioned earlier, I've worked heavily with Sanyo and some other companies in the cell phone space. There's a hidden market that I call slice marketing that will be coming out in the near future. I've actually been doing some work on this. All of us boot up our PC. Every morning it comes up, and what do you see? There's a beautiful little Microsoft Windows logo. There's a welcome screen. Now, recently in an SNS newsletter, Mark talked about the Google within a Microsoft or Google within other little companies. Here's a big opportunity. I call it boot advertising. Imagine Microsoft putting out a friendly little Windows update next week, next month, that would allow them at will to put an image, an advertising image on every boot screen geographically or worldwide. What would Toyota pay for that? Now, on a secondary level, we're actually starting to do that right now with cell phones. Been working heavily with my company in this arena, and we're going to be doing boot advertising on the cell phone arena. Again, what would Sprint pay, or what would Toyota or some other company pay Sprint if regionally or across their whole network they could have a boot up screen for advertising on a cell phone? I think it's a big opportunity. Think of the millions of hours accumulative of advertising hours that you could charge different companies. In conclusion, I think that the future for technology is very bright. I'm very happy to be part of it. And I'm always on the lookout for great partnerships, whether it's equity or technology. Thank you.
Again, thanks, Mark and Sam and everybody else. A great event. My name is Bill Phelps. I'm a partner with Accenture. I think there was a comment this morning at some point when we were talking about supercomputers about the, the point of the spear. I think that makes me someplace back on the shaft of the spear. I do most of my work these days with large organizations, both in the public sector and the private sector, helping them to optimize what they're doing from a standpoint of infrastructure technology that we've talked about several times today. Data centers, networks, security, messaging infrastructure, the physical and software layer underlying applications. As I was putting this together, my premise kind of became looking at several different trends that collectively, I think, translate to a real increase in bang for the buck in what I'll call corporate IT, you know, IT spending by large organizations. During the internet boom, I think as we all would recognize here, there was a tremendous innovation in technology, but also, in my opinion at least, a lot of overinvestment, a lot of speculative investment, and a lot of technology that wasn't ready for prime time, at least not at the scale that my clients needed it. We had what I've referred to, and lots of people have, as a nuclear winter of IT spending. I don't know when you date it, from 2001, 2002 to 2004, 2005, but certainly in the enterprise CIOs, there was a period of almost fanatical desire to not spend money. I think under the covers there was a lot of activity going on during that period, refining, optimizing, throwing out stuff that didn't work, optimizing the stuff that did. And I'd like to talk about 4 trends that I think we're all familiar with, but collectively I think they're going to have a huge impact. The first is the raw technology. I think whether you look at servers, storage, networks, any aspect of the infrastructure technology, the big trends are virtualization and automation, automated provisioning, automated reconfiguration, so that we're moving towards, while unit costs are falling, we're moving towards much higher utilization. So we're going from, I think we talked some point maybe yesterday about mainframes. We're going back to the 75, 80% utilization at the same time that the unit costs are falling. The second area is around process. A lot of the work I do is working with organizations that finally, and you'd think this would have happened a long time ago, are really standardizing the processes they use to support IT. Whether it's an industry standard process like IDLE or COBIT or whatever, we're seeing real standardization. The third area that's gotten a lot of play is what I call distribution of work. We can put IT and a lot of other work, but for what's important to me, IT work, anywhere we want. It started out as pure labor arbitrage going to India. Now it's increasingly, if you look at Accenture, we had 20 people in India in 2000. We have, depending on what day it is, something north of 17,000 today, 40,000 in our total global delivery network. And the issue today is much more about where's the best place to do the work from a cost standpoint, but a language standpoint, a skill standpoint, so we can move the work wherever we want it. The last area is around what I'll call software paradigms. I think the most significant is SOA, service-oriented architectures, but related to that, we've got open source, and we've also got what I wasn't sure the best name for, but online services are Googleization of software. Don Rippert, my friend who you heard from earlier, is having a debate with one of his colleagues about whether SOA is going to yield a 5x improvement in software development efficiency or a 10x. So, while I still spend quite a bit of time talking to corporate CIOs about, sort of ROI on technology, ROI on investment, when you look at the intersection of the areas that I've talked about, we're going to see a dramatic improvement or reduction in unit costs. And the real question is, does this result in a reduction in IT spending, in a reduction in money that's spent with my organization and many of our organizations here, or does the demand elasticity as we see lower unit costs and dramatically new innovation, keep driving up the spending because there are so many cool new things that we can do with the technology. And as I thought about the simple question, I concluded, kind of that it's not an either or answer. There's going to be organizations that go down both of those paths, but certainly our research suggests that organizations that do invest in technology do get a return from it and do get a return in the marketplace. So I'm very excited about the overall impact. Thanks.
Ian Sandy with Shell Technology Investigation. When Mark approached me about talking here, I asked him what to talk about, and he said, "You can talk about anything you like as long as you don't talk about marketing." And being from Shell and being in IT, I figured, thank goodness, because I know nothing at all about marketing. It's not the area that I deal with at all. The one question I probably should have asked but didn't was to see whether or not I could speak a little bit earlier rather than later, because the thing I was originally going to talk to actually has been covered off a couple of times. So I've had to change stream a little bit, so bear with me. The funny thing about the future, if you stop and think about it, is that a lot of it's here and now. And those of you that are familiar with William Gibson's comment, and I'll paraphrase it, is that the future's here today. It's just not very evenly distributed. I believe that very much to be true, and you see it all around you in various places. And I take it as a given that there will be faster processors and faster memory access, and there will be gobs of bandwidth, and there will be smarter software available to do increasingly clever things and smaller form factors and what have you. But I think as Saul was alluding to last night, when you get right down to it, all of that is really just stuff. And really what counts is that user experience. And that leads me into a thing that we've been talking a little bit about in our own company around what I call the etiquette of presence, or what somebody else that I work with referred to as making sure that we leave no adult behind, which is like a play on a program I believe you have here in the United States about leaving no child behind. And that is the pace and the uptake of the technology frequently gets ahead of people's ability to deal with it. And I'll give you a couple of examples. An interesting one happened relatively recently, in the last couple of years, where we had an individual try to block the deployment of instant messenger within our part of the business. And it wasn't so much the technology. It has to do with the fact, first of all, he found it somewhat disruptive in the sense that it was distracting, but also he found it intrusive. And intrusive in the sense that it started to impinge upon the way he worked and the way he wanted his people to work. And when you stop and think and consider that the next major release of Microsoft's products, which is coming out whenever it comes out, is going to have presence and presence capability embedded in the fabric of the product. If you want to use it if you want to think about being able to leverage that and get the most value for it, for collaboration and for virtual teaming and that sort of thing, we somehow have to bring those people, many of whom do not use the simple tools like instant messenger and are averse to doing that for many reasons, cultural as much as anything. When you deal with a company such as ours in 128 countries, you run into many different cultural models, and we need to work on this. So just to close, one of the things that we'll be doing and spending some time on is developing that etiquette, or how to deal with presence in order to get the most valuable use of the tool so as to not leave some of our staff behind. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Jeanette. I am the Chief Technology Officer for a company called True North Logic. We build systems that focus on K-12 management. Technology has given us the ability to communicate and disseminate information to individuals faster than ever before. The speed and the amount of information being produced for consumption grows exponentially with each passing year. We can find all we could possibly want to know about ape populations to the theory of relativity in the matter of seconds. With all this emanated knowledge at the tip of our children's fingertips, they have the opportunity to be Jane Goodall and Albert Einsteins. But will they be? It's tempting to think we can build a supercomputer that can take in all this information and give us, humans, some original understanding, giving our young children all the answers to live enriched, meaningful, and intelligent lives. More information, more technology does not guarantee more insight. All of this is not necessarily making our children more intelligent. Now is the time for us to make sense of what is being disseminated. We need to give children the tools to sift through this vast amount of information and distill and consume what will increase their capacity. Present them with opportunities to be better at what they do, lead them to a positive future and a more intelligent life. And We don't want to cripple ourselves by being overwhelmed by useless information, but open ourselves up to a future of ideas. The creativity needed to make sense and to become more intelligent as a result of our information and technology is what we need to try to understand and teach this to our teachers, our young people, and our children. The information will continue to be disseminated in faster and more innovative ways, and that is what we've done to date and will continue to do well. But the power, the real power, is in being able to change lives for the better by understanding what the information and technology contains. Give it context to an individual situation. Give them the opportunity to apply it to their life and grow. Giving children a hunger for knowledge rather than convenience of access. My challenge to all of you is how can you build your products, write your articles, and invest your money in connecting lives, not just computers, databases, telephones, and networks, but connect to the actual human on the other end and inspire them to want to be more like you, creative, innovative, and idea people. Help our children become hungry for the future and how they can contribute and become more intelligent by the power of the knowledge at their fingertips, in turn making their lives and others around them more enriched. Technology and information alone is not our future. People and their ideas are our future. Greatness occurs in the intersection between technology and the human capacity. So let's start connecting and inspire our children to be great.
Hello, my name is David Brillembourg. I'm the CEO of Brilla Group, which is an investment bank focused on the Latino community and the Latino opportunity. Thanks, Mark, always for the invitation to speak at FiRe. And I feel now it's like a State of the Union for the Latino and Latin American opportunity and trends. I always speak about the same, and I'll do it again. I'm going to break it in two areas, which is the good trends and the bad trends. I think that there's been a trend that we've been looking at SNS for the last maybe 3 or 4 years, which has been Chavez. And that's an interesting one because now we're seeing the side effects of what Mark was mentioning 2 or 3 years ago, which is what's going to happen when all of this momentum starts to take place. We're seeing now with Brazil, we see it now with Chile, with the new government positions. We see it with Argentina, and we also see it with now with Bolivia, which just nationalized the oil gas industry a few weeks back. So those trends are not going anywhere. Chavez is very well entrenched, more than ever now in Venezuela with $70 a barrel. I think we were talking about $30 a barrel and $25 a barrel 4 or 5 years ago. So now he's stronger than ever. That's going to continue to be that way. And the only outcome we're waiting for is obviously Mexico, which is the key trading partner of the U.S., trying to figure out what's going to happen there, if López Obrador is going to win or not. Everything says or describes that it's not going to win. It's not going to be him who's going to win. So we think Mexico is going to be safe from the influence of Chavez, at least for now. Now, so you know, just today, U.S. just banned sales of arms to Venezuela. Just came out this morning. Now, turning into the good and positive side, not everything is negative, but it's important to know that trend. There's some great things happening in Latin America, especially I break it in 3 specific areas. The first one is the continuing integration of the Latino community in the U.S. with the Latin American community. They're very well connected. Today, more than $60 billion in money flows back from the United States down south. That's just a huge amount of money. In some cases, you have countries like Salvador or even Dominican Republic, where more than 10% of the GDP is connected to these people working in the U.S. and coming back through money transfers, with small denomination money transfer, $300, $400 a month. So it's a major influx which is interconnected to the economy. The second thing is this brings an innovative scenario for micro business and microcredit, which is growing fairly fast in countries like Mexico and Brazil, which is a lot of small business starting to become very strong, and this interconnection to the entrepreneurial spirit, which is very much alive in Latin America. The third one I want to focus on, and I didn't have a chance to be this morning's presentation, is that there is 200 million mobile phones in Latin America. There's a very massive opportunity of mobile phones. It's a very, the user is connecting to that mobile phone to use his internet. Many times that's the only way to connect, or his only phone. 90% of those phones are prepaid, so you have a huge opportunity there, also a huge trend. So I think that with 80% of the population without relationship with the banks, it's a huge opportunity in the trend of microcredits and financial services for the unbanked, both in the US and Latin America. And also, obviously, the integration of all the mobile phones, which is a great opportunity with a huge growth. So there's a 500 million strong opportunity in terms of Latin America. It's still there, and I think we need to continue to watch it in some specific segments. Thank you very much, Mark, again, and look forward to the rest of the conference.